Confidence in the economy a priority for government. The Barbados Workers Union says some retrenchment negotiations will stretch into next year. And Sagicor to be acquired by a foreign company.
Credible, balanced, committed. This is the CBC Evening News.
Good evening, I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Ryan Strawn, has addressed concerns of Barbadians querying why government has moved to pay 2017 tax returns first, rather than those owed for previous years. Now, Mr. Strawn responded that government, as it moves to restore confidence, is ensuring it remains current. His comments came as he moved the second reading of the Income Tax Amendment Bill and Validation Bill 2018.
So we cannot build up any more arrears. So having built up $116 million in personal income tax arrears in 10 years, as a responsible government, understanding the context, we went about, sir, ensuring, as we've done with the stabilization effort over the last few months, is to make sure, sir, that the persons who filed their income tax in April of this year, sir, that the Barbados Revenue Authority, sir, over the course of the last few weeks, has repaid almost $25 million in the assessed arrears to those persons, sorry, not arrears, sorry, refunds for the 2017 income year, sir.
Mr. Strawn revealed that government will be moving to settle outstanding arrears, including personal income tax, among others, over the next few years.
Through those consultations, sir, we put proposals on the table. They were tested, in a sense, in the room. People put counter proposals as part of the framework for developing the broader public policy. And so, sir, in that very space, over those many meetings in early June, well, May and June, there was a sense, sir, of national consensus being built by the leadership, not just in government, but certainly the private sector and the labor movement.
Opposition leader Bishop Joseph Atherley is worried about the impact of increased taxes on Barbadians. He spoke specifically about the new higher rate band of 40% on people with incomes of $75,000 or over.
We're taking more money out of these people's pockets at a bad time. And at a time when, if you look at the context, there are other increased taxes all around. There's a fuel charge. There's a garbage and sewage charge. There's a health contribution. These people are paying all of these things. So we're not simply increasing a tax rate to 40% on a certain figure. We are, in fact, impacting on the lot of a very critically important unit in our economy.
Mr. Atherley also said he's concerned about the underperformance of the value-added tax. He believes this is due to numerous waivers of levies and fees, as well as zero ratings.
The very government that sits in office today has also been loud in castigation of concessions given, especially in the tourism sector, to certain entities and to some construction entities as well. Now, if all of this is true, and that is the reality, and that ministerial discretion is being either unwisely exercised or abusively exercised, then we have a case for looking again at this business of ministerial discretion.
The local private sector is being told to follow government and give workers an increase in pay. This plea from Christchurch West MP Dr. William Duguid. He's told members of the lower chamber he's pleased to see the Barbados Workers Union and the Barbados Hotel Tourism Association have reached agreement on a 5.5% wage hike for workers. However, he says other stakeholders must now follow.
A little $50, $60 increase might not mean a lot to an employer, but it means a hell of a lot to a gas station attendant. It means a hell of a lot to somebody who is working at the lower end. And a begging and a pleading now. You're getting a reduction in the taxes you're going to pay. You're seeing an increase in business. You got a tax write-off on tax arrears. Get out there and increase the amount that the people are paid.
The Barbados Workers Union says the negotiation process for the remaining workers to be retrenched from state-owned enterprises could run into early next year. General Secretary Senator Tony Moore says while they have been able to make progress with the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation, the Rural Development Commission and the Barbados Water Authority, remaining negotiations with other SOEs will not be completed before Christmas. Citing some examples, she says discussions must still take place with entities like the Caves of Barbados and the National Sports Council. Senator Moore used the ongoing negotiations with the Transport Board as an example of what is required for each process. She explains that it cannot simply be a case of cutting numbers, but having a picture of what the organization will look like going forward with input from the workers through the union.
Once they've done that, we would examine it. We've signaled to them the importance for the BWU of very early being able to come to the table to discussion so we are not caught in a rush saying this is the picture, these people are to go next week, that we will have opportunities to input to the discussions in a meaningful way. So we've been challenging ourselves and challenging our members to share their thoughts with us as we prepare for that fuller rollout. So it's very safe to say that the restructuring program will not finish before Christmas or immediately after, but it is as the information comes to us and as we're able to treat to it.
Senator Moore says they are still in the very early stages for both the National Sports Council and Caves of Barbados.
We have received a signal from Caves of Barbados, but those are now at the point where, especially in the Caves of Barbados, where we have to hear more fully what that program is. I don't think that they are advancing at the point that they could say definitively what is going to happen. And in the case of the Sports Council, we had an initial meeting with them last Thursday and Friday morning, and we expect by this week, Thursday, which represents the end of the week, work week, we expect to have a proposal from them that we could reflect on and have an opportunity for further interaction.
Next year's sugar harvest may be soon hanging in the balance if confusion surrounding the future of some workers remains unresolved. Head of the representative body for sugar workers, Edwin O'Neill, has expressed disappointment about the Barbados Agriculture Management Corporation's lack of consultation and negotiation with the union as it relates to retrenchments. He says the union received letters from the BAMC about the subvention cuts and voluntary separations, but when they requested a meeting with management there was no written response. As a result, he says many workers are confused. Mr. O'Neill aired his concerns with the media at the Constant Farm in St. George.
Those persons who are aware would know that at this time of the year, the factory and the field operations are probably at their busiest in preparation for the coming harvest. Now, all the reports to us are that members are now confused, uncertain, demotivated, demoralized as a consequence.
While not disclosing all of his future steps, Mr. O'Neill says he will be sending the matter to the Congress of Staff Associations of Barbados.
By letter of the 19th of November, the union wrote the general manager deploring this kind of behavior. And since it represented a significant breach of good industrial relations practice and the spirit of tripartism, indicated that we were going to report this matter to CITUSAP for onward transmission to the social partnership meeting.
Weeks before the official start of the 2018 winter tourist season, the Fairmont Royal Pavilion is already putting plans in place for next year. General Manager Jean-Christophe Martinez says the majority of the hotel's guests are from the United Kingdom market. He's now looking to penetrate the U.S. and European markets as well. Meantime, sales executive Jania Drakes says 2018 has been a good year for the hotel.
Since we completed a multi-million-dollar renovation last year, it has definitely picked up for us, putting Fairmont on, on the map, and all the new room products, and just having more of attraction, and then our guests knowing what we have here to offer on the West Coast, and especially on the beach. We're one of the only places in Barbados that are this close to the water. So it's definitely picked up, and there's a lot of traction, and more guests are coming to our properties compared to last year.
Focus was placed on young males as the Bureau of Gender Affairs moved to heighten awareness of gender-based violence. A young males workshop was held at the Baobab Towers in Warrens, where the boys along with technocrats dissected the scourge in a bid to find solutions. The workshop formed part of activities to commemorate the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Moderator Sean Fields says the participation of the young men provides them with insight as to what's happening with this generation.
Part, you guys being here, you're having photos and you're having film, allows us then to be able to get that message out further. Because obviously, there's always technical issues with large groups, and then getting information coming by, the plenary sessions and things like that. So keeping the group nice and small, but with a diverse constituents, allows you then to basically get that feedback that you want, so that you can look at the programs and the different interventions that you would need in order to address a particular issue.
The National Organization of Women has taken issue with the way the Protection Orders Act is being interpreted by some stakeholders. Now, Public Relations Officer Marcia Hines says there are still issues with who is considered a victim of domestic violence and who can start the process to have a protection order issued. She says men are also not getting the training needed to help them address their behaviors once a protection order is issued against them.
Then you have a situation where, because these men still have visitation rights to children, they're quickly working out that invoking those visitation rights then keep them closer to their victims. So it is almost another set of cyclic circumstances that a woman finds herself in. I've run back to my mother, I've gone to a friend's house, but I have these 2 children, and every weekend, he shows up to have the children. She has to deal with all the text messages that come during the week about the children. So that's one of the things that we're also concerned about.
Ms. Hines says another major challenge facing the organization is the way statistics about domestic violence are collected.
Because the police collect some, the hospital collects some, the Barbados Professional Women's Shelter, the hotline collects some, but we don't have yet a coordinated strategic place or person, maybe within a ministry or something, who is responsible for capturing the numbers of the whole epidemic. So in a lot of ways, we're still chasing an epidemic that we're not clear about in terms of numbers and in terms of some of the very important characteristics of it, and that concerns us as well.
The Grantley Adams Memorial School does not want to be left out of the expansion of 6th forms in secondary schools across the island. Principal Valdez Francis shared his vision for the St. Joseph Institution during an event to commemorate the island's 52nd year of political independence. According to Mr. Francis, Grantley Adams' 6th form offering will be different to those introduced at other institutions.
They would want to build it on CVQs. Not that we are removing the general education, that too, but we want to expand it to embrace Tech Vault so that Tech Vault comes into its own. That's where we're going to build our country. So as we go forward to build our country, join with me as we start to rebuild this school and as we start to build our nation, one child at a time, one class at a time, and one school at a time.
Well, as you would have heard, Mr. Francis intends to expand Caribbean Vocational Qualifications, or CVQs, for students of the school.
Along with that, I would want to have entrepreneurship as part of every CVQ so that you get to learn the rules of the business and the business of the business, so that job hunting, you can do your own self. You can make your own jobs, and if you would take 2 or 3 people along with you, we wouldn't have a lot of unemployment in Barbados. Think of that.
Deep in the heart of St. Thomas, almost hidden away in a cul-de-sac, is a small community called Christy Village. And while there aren't many houses around, it's still the sort of place where you'll find a few elderly folk eager to tell you about life in this little-known neighborhood.
Yeah, Barbados boy, won't give it up for the world.
Take Edwin Arthur, for example, who happily abandons his afternoon rest to tell us about the place he was, according to him, born and bred. He says the name Christy Village comes from one of the predominant families in the area.
What happened, it was more Christys than Arthurs. We are Arthurs, you understand me? So you all went across out there already, and you see the houses, that those big houses that are out there, well, them there belongs to the Christys. So they call it Christy's Village.
Mr. Arthur says the village has retained much of its old features, making it easy to reminisce about his childhood days.
And we had to go and bring buckets of water on our head and all such forth, you understand me, and cows my father had and such forth, and we had to feed them up and all such forth, and then get ready to school, you understand me.
But the challenges then were made easier by the sense of community that existed.
This is a community that come also caring for people, because you know, if the community is something that if those people don't have it, and we have a breadfruit, and we have potatoes or anything, we share with each other, you understand me?
Confirming all this is another resident, 67-year-old Cynthia Odell. She's been retired for just over a year after a lifetime of laboring in the fields.
Working in plantation, Benny's plantation before Sandy Lane White. I now come out last year, July the 28th. I went there to work for 3 weeks. There was my plantation when they buy it working on. And then after Sandy Lane bought it, and then my manager there, he tell me to come and get work down there because he know how hard I work. And I went down there and I worked for 3 weeks. They say 3 weeks, and the 3 weeks was 16 years.
Now she spends her days mostly enjoying the tranquility of her neighborhood.
It's nice. I love how it's quiet. Very quiet, because sometimes when you listen to the news in other parishes in the island, you hear so much wrong things going on with people. Anything that happens in this village is people from outside. We've got to come in and do it.
We assured her the CBC team, although outsiders, was not there to do any wrong. And not wanting to wear out our welcome, we left shortly afterwards, heading to another St. Thomas community. This one boasts of some fantastic views of the island's lush interior. A brisk breeze blows almost constantly here, perhaps giving a clue to the name of this place. Guess where I am? I'm in Erotic, St. Thomas. It's a place where some straight-talking residents tell you exactly what it is when it comes to their community. To underscore the point, we'll hear from Gabriel Seeley, a farmer and mason. Just listen to what he thinks of his neighborhood.
I can tell you the truth. I got 1 or 2 malicious people around here, but everything else happens to be okay around this place. We got good neighbors, different than malicious people.
And as there were a few young people working on vehicles nearby, we sought to get Mr. Seeley's thoughts about youngsters in the area. Is it the sort of place where the youngsters still take guidance from the older folk?
1 or 2 of the youngsters were here, but some of them ain't really gone to ears.
As he left us and moved off to feed his pigs, we turned to 80-year-old returning national Daphne Newsom for her thoughts about Erotic.
Where I'm concerned, it's very quiet and nice. The people is very nice. I don't see a lot of, everybody keep to themselves. That's the truth. Everybody keep to themselves. But it's quite nice. I wouldn't live anywhere else.
And one thing you learn pretty quickly about her is that she's not afraid of hard work and getting her hands dirty.
I am weeding up all these shrubs. You see these? I've got some planted and I planted them for a long time. But the rain came in and the grass grew up between them. So I'm now trying to clear them and plant back some more. So that when I get up in the morning and I look across here, it looks like me, Rosie.
We left Miss Newsom and headed back to base, having taken a closer look at Erotic and before that Christy Village, 2 St. Thomas communities highlighted in this year's edition of Coast to Coast.